Hi, welcome to Blogatog Live. Uh, so assume most of you are aware, I run a blog that I do every day that's on Tumblr called Blogatog. And so today we're going to do a live version of my blog. I don't even know what that means, but so we have my trusty, faithful sidekick Allison here is going to be posting everything. And so the idea is we're going to see my blog, and then as I talk about this weekend and answer questions and stuff, it will all be posted live on Blogatog. So, but to get the full experience, you have to hear come talking about things. So is the blog up yet? No. There it is. Okay. Okay, so first what I want to do is I want to talk about this weekend, recap sort of what happened, show a bunch of pictures, and then I'm going to answer your questions live on Blogatog. So, for those that don't know, is everyone here aware of Blogatog? Anybody here who has no idea what I'm talking about? So, that's good. Okay. So, here's a little trivia question, by the way, is that when Blogatog first started, it wasn't called Blogatog. What was it called? Anyone know? It was called Tales from the Pit, because when I first made it, it was just a place to put my comic. And then there's a little button that said, would you answer questions? I'm like, sure. And so, anyway, I occasionally also post comics. But, and at some point I said, this is not really Tales from the Pit because I have all so many answers. So it became Blogatog. And people always ask me, what do you feed Blogatog? So I'm like, other blogs, I guess. Okay, so this week we had a pretty cool time this weekend. Hopefully you guys have a chance to experience it. So for those at home, so first off, we took over an entire building, the annex here at the so there were 4 floors. The major 2 floors where you guys had most of the public stuff. And so we have fun pictures here, in theory.
I'm working on the
Okay. So poor Allison has to repeat everything I say and post it live on the thing. So I will talk very slowly. No. So I'll give you a little more trivia about Blogatog. So Blogatog now is just under 4 years old, I think. How many posts have I made on Blogatog? 55,000. How many unanswered questions do I have? 250,000. So that means if I if I took no new questions and answered at the same rate I've been answering questions, in a little under 5 years, I'd catch up. So when people ask why I don't answer all the questions, I get a lot of questions. So, and for those who don't know, by the way, there are other Wizards employees that are on Blogatog. So beside my lovely blog, Magic has an official blog that Allison and the team do. Doug Beyer has a Voice for Vorthos, which is all about the creative team and creative stuff. Gavin Voorhe has what's it called? Gavin Site, which is all about Gavin's one of my designers. Robert Schuster just started a Magic Online blog, so there's a blog dedicated to Magic Online. And I forgot that Matt Tabak in the back of the room can answer all your judge questions and be snarky live on Blogatog. Okay, so this weekend we took over the annex. Can we do that yet? Okay, this weekend we took over the annex. We have a lot of pictures, and poor Allison has to post them all. So, okay, so here's me waiting in line, being attacked by the little tentacles, and then me sitting at the booth, and then reveal that no one was there. So, so anyway, beside us taking over, there were a lot of events that went on this weekend. First off, there was the Magic World Championship. So Seth Mansfield is now. So interestingly, by the way, he is only the 4th American to win the world title. The first was Zach Dolan way back in the beginning. The second was Brian Selden in 1998, I believe. The third was John Finkel in the year 2000, and since 2000 we have not seen that. So this is Seth right there, and congratulations to him. I heard it was a very dramatic. I actually didn't see the finals because I was off yesterday, but I heard it was a very dramatic finals. Went down to Game 5, and he played Owen Turnwald in the finals. So anyway, it was very exciting. Also this weekend we had a big preview show where I and Doug Beyer, along with Will Whedon and Ashley Burke, had a full, I think it was like a 50-minute show talking all about Battle for Zendikar. And so what happened was they made me come at 6:45 a.m. in the morning to run through. So we ran through it twice. And then the live show was not a lot like our run-throughs at all. Will is in the morning, he was very tired, so he was sort of groggily reading his lines off the teleprompter. But in the live show, he didn't even always use the prompter. He was having fun. So luckily, I'm trained in improv, so I was. But it was fun. I mean, it was a very, very fun show, and Will has decided that he's on Team Eldrazi, so he was defending the Eldrazi. Well, I'm not rooting for the Eldrazi, but as a designer, I want to make sure they're represented because if you want to play the Eldrazi, such an opportunity is available for you. Also, this weekend we hosted a whole bunch of panels. This is my second panel, other than the live show, but I also did. Apparently, my social media live is the theme of this weekend for me. I did a Drive to Work live. I don't know who ever saw the live Drive to Work live. So I was very impressed because they said, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "Just give me a steering wheel and have something behind me that looks like I'm driving." And they did that. So the thing I felt really bad about when you ever watch the video is I'm doing a very poor job of explaining how to drive because I'm like my legs are crossed. I'm looking at Matt. So anyway, the actual Blogatog. I watched the road. So. What else did we do this weekend? Oh, we made a giant eldrazi out the building that is eating part of Seattle. So what happened was we learned, I don't know, a couple months ago. It's growing. The eldrazi have eaten the webpage. So what happened was I found out a couple months ago that they were going to do this thing, and they had little models and things. And it's a very different animal to see, like, little tiny versions of something. And then when you walk up and it's like, 30 feet high. So anyway, props to the team that put that all together. I was really, really impressed. And the police car and the street lamp. And anyway, that's really cool. So for those at home that haven't seen it, at some point there'll be pictures up of it was impressive.
We're going to go to mobile?
Okay, we're going to mobile. Wait a second. Wait. Let's see if I can post pictures. Here's an interesting question. I also have. Let's see. Can I post? Let's see if I can post. Dun dun dun. Ooh. Okay, let's see. Here is. Let's see. Dun dun dun. Okay, I'm gonna try to post and see if my post will go up. Anyway, the fun with technology. So the other exciting thing we did this weekend is we had a live panel. Who went to a live creative panel that was at 1:30 today? So in it. Not only did they talk about creative and show off a few new cards, but we announced the next set name. Who here doesn't know the next set name? Anybody? Well, you guys do because you were at the panel, right? Oh, no. Okay, so the next set is called Oath of the Gatewatch. That will all mean something someday. But there's a cool picture that maybe one day you'll see of the four members, poor Allison. The four members they came to me and they said, "Here's an idea. We're going to do live Blogatog." And I said, "That sounds awesome. What do you need?" Allison can post pictures. How hard could that be? So. Okay. So we announced the name of the set. So it's Oath of the Gatewatch. What else did we do? When I'm posting things, are my pictures going up? Do we know? Let's see if they're going up or not. I'm trying to post stuff. We also this weekend had a lot of cool cosplaying. Do you guys see a lot? I saw so many. I mean, we had some people cosplay, obviously, and then we had people come out and cosplay. So it was exciting. I got a pose with the Angel of Tithe and Liliana, although they both had the things. I don't know how that happened, but there was a lot. The number of Planeswalkers was really cool. We saw Sorin and we saw Nahiri. It was very cool. And so anyway, lots of cool cosplaying. So here's what we're going to do while we're waiting is I'm going to start taking live questions, live from all of you. So there's a microphone. You ask me questions, and then I will live answer them. It's some new technique in interactive. So you got to go up to the microphone. Okay. Now on actual Blogatog, I can choose which questions to answer. So I don't have that luxury here. So this is why live Blogatog's more exciting. I don't know what the question is going to be.
So Friday was actually my birthday.
Okay.
So
Ooh,
for
birthday trivia. Okay.
I was curious if you had any trivia about Yawgmoth's Will.
But I do. Here's so for those that don't know, on Blogatog, it's for your birthday, you can ask me a trivia question. Originally, people would just say it's my birthday, and I say happy birthday. And then originally I realized it was boring for most people, so I said, okay, why don't you ask a trivia question? I would give a trivia question, and so now it's become a tradition to ask a trivia question. The problem is I don't know trivia on all 15,000 cards, and I feel bad when someone says this is my favorite card. I'm like, I don't have trivia on. So Yawgmoth's Will, I do have trivia on though. So Yawgmoth's Will was designed by both myself and Mike Elliott independently during Urza Saga design. I made it as a green card. Mike made it as a black card. Mike was the lead designer of the set, so it's a black card. But when we first had it translated into Japanese, it was translated as Yawgmoth's Day Planner or something. I'm sorry. No, that was Yawgmoth's Agenda. Yawgmoth's Agenda was translated as Yawgmoth's Day Planner until we said that's not the kind of agenda we meant. But Yawgmoth's Will is interesting. R&D has had long arguments about what is the most powerful card ever made in Magic. The answer is, what's the draw 7 anti-card? Contract from Below is the most broken. Okay, discounting anti-cards, Yawgmoth's Will was the choice of the contender for most broken card. In conjunction, it's very, very broken. But anyway, although of the cards I designed, they just said that it's possible that Tinker might be more broken than Yawgmoth's Will. So.
I would agree with that. Thank
Okay,
you very much.
next question.
You mentioned on Drive to Work that sometimes you don't get it quite right and you have to redo it. I was wondering if you
Yes.
have any fun stories about something you haven't gone quite right or something that maybe you're still working on that,
So there's a great tape where I'm driving to work and I'm maybe 2 minutes in, and I say a product of a set that's not out yet, and it's just like a minute of me swearing. And then I drove back because I had to drive back to because I'm like, I'm 2 minutes away. I'm not gonna not do my podcast, and my rule is I have to pull in my driveway. I don't cheat. So I went back 2 minutes, drove back to my house. I'm swearing the whole way, but then I'm like, okay. I'm pulling in my driveway, and then I start again. So
do you listen to every podcast that you do before?
I don't listen to the ones I stop because I know I'm not going to use them.
Sure.
But the rule is I drive to work doing my podcast, and then on the way home, I listen to the podcast to make sure. And my rule, I explained this in my live drive to work. If I make 2 or less mistakes, I'm willing to leave it be. But as soon as I make the 3rd mistake, I'm like, I probably need to retape this. So
Thank you.
okay.
Hi, I'm John.
Hi,
I'm
John.
from Ballard, like the Task Mage.
Yes. Which
I'm-
is she is named after
She's
that
named
city.
after my
yeah,
my
she
town.
is.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So I noticed that the eldrazi that are blue, they make spawn now. And I
Yes.
was wondering, did that just fly over with everyone, or? did you
Okay,
have to
this is
think about
actually this is being asked in my blog, so I can get answered live. Every single color is allowed to make tokens. That is, all the colors in their color pie have token making, and blue happens to be the color that most often makes colorless mana. So when we were reconfiguring in Battle for Zendikar, we needed to balance all the different colors. So it turns out that blue, green, and black are the ones that are focused where we put the eldrazi Scion. So all the colors, actually, I don't even know. I don't know if white even gets Scion, but it's focused more in black, blue, and green. So a little advanced tidbit of Battle for Zendikar.
Thanks.
I was just about to ask what role the color pie played in the Devoid Eldrazi.
Well, one of the things that the big trick about doing Devoid was I decided early on that I wanted all the Eldrazi to be colorless. So in the original Rise to the Eldrazi, only the major ones were colorless. There were a lot. There were red and green and black. Those were the Eldrazi colors. But people don't even remember that there were colored Eldrazi. Like that, to me, that was the defining quality, one of the defining qualities of them. And one of the problems I had is Brian Tinsman, who did the original one, just went all out on the Eldrazi. But we had at the time it started New World Order, but Brian wasn't someone who regularly did design. He did design every once in a while. And so when I said to him, Brian, you got to follow New World Order, he's like, whatever. And so it's the only set that doesn't really follow New World Order in the age of New World Order. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to follow New World Order. So we had a lot of things I couldn't do. There were a lot of things we did last time that I didn't want to do or we weren't able to do. And so it was really important they had one quality that could overlay all of them. So I decided that needed to be colorless. And so, but the problem was I couldn't have as many Eldrazi as I needed to have, because the idea is they've taken over Zendikar. You can't have like 4 of them and go, well, we've taken over Zendikar, all 4 of them. So we needed enough that if I had the amount I would need, it would break the color pie, because Mirrodin taught me this. So it did. Well, to be fair, in Mirrodin, when I turned over the file, it had a lot of colored activations, and my boss at the time made me take it out, and I didn't understand why I had done it, and then later I'm like, oh, that's why I did it. Because I do a lot of things instinctually. Like I don't like it feels right. I don't always know why I'm doing things. But anyway, Ghostfire was the solution to the problem, right? It's like, oh, well, they could be colorless, and we could care about them being colorless. But if we have mana cost that's colored, then the color pie is there. And so I can make a red Ghostfire, a red Devoid card because, well, there's red mana, so we can do whatever red does, and I won't break the color pie. I think. Well, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you a little secret. I don't think white has Devoid. I think the other 4 colors have Devoid. So, a little.
Can I just write that part?
Sure. Live on Blogatog, it'll be like 3-word sentences. It's your birthday. Yawgmoth's will. It's broken. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
First, I just wanted to say I was really excited to see Eldrazi without Annihilator, because the Annihilator mechanic really is super punishing, and my friends really hate it when I play it, because I play a lot of kitchen table Magic, so I was really excited to see that and thought it was really good design. Was that one of your goals when designing the new Eldrazi, is that they didn't feel as punishing before?
Well, here's the problem. A lot of what we did last time with Eldrazi was awesome, but I think we made some mistakes. Annihilator was a mechanic that really was disliked. I mean, one of the things we do is we do market research all the time to figure out what people don't like. And people always yell at me, like, why are you guys listening to market research? And I'm like, you guys are market research. I'm listening to the players. You know, the players like something or don't like something. The problem with Annihilator is it is just so soul-crushing, and you really can't come back from it. I mean, I'm not saying you can't ever have a game where you come back, but 90% of the time, like once they attack once with an Annihilator 3 or 4, you're not going to win that game. But it takes it makes you slowly and painfully lose rather than quickly lose. So I knew I wasn't doing Annihilator. I mean, if you guys pay attention to Blogatog, like I've been telegraphing this for years that we're not doing Annihilator again. The second thing is one of my big issues with the previous one was what Brian called Battle Cruiser Magic, which is I liked the idea that there was an option to ramp into Giant Eldrazi, but I disliked that you could not do that. One of the problems we had with Rise of the Eldrazi is it really mixed our audience. If you're an experienced drafter, you loved it because it's weird and different, but once you figure it out, you get it. If you weren't, you hated it because you fall in what we call traps. I'm going to play a 2-mana 2/2. How wrong can a Grizzly Bear? Horribly wrong. It's just like there's things that you do that normal Magic will work and just don't work. And so the goal of this set was I want you to opt into that style of play. If you want to ramp out Giant Eldrazi, I want you to be able to do that, but I don't want to force you to do that. And so we worked really hard in Battle for Zendikar to make that an option. That's one thing you can do, but it's not Battle Cruiser Magic in the sense that everybody has to do that. You know, if you want to play normal Magic, you can. I mean, I'd play the Zendikari for this, but you can do more normal Magic, and you don't have to ramp into giant creatures. That's available. There's people who want to do that, and we'll let you do that. But it's not kind of mandatory as it kind of was in Rise of Eldrazi, where you had to play some sort of long-term strategy. I mean, you could do level up or stuff, but you had to do something different. And here it's like, you want to play fast, you can. You want to play slow, we'll let you do both.
Okay.
Hey, what was the mechanic that you found hardest to balance?
What's that I found hardest to balance? None, because I don't balance mechanics. What mechanic did development find hardest to balance? Affinity was tricky. Usually the really hard ones we don't make. I mean, normally when development comes back and says, "Oh, this is too hard," we don't make it.
Okay, can you give an example of that?
For example, during Avacyn Restored, we had a mechanic called the Forbidden Mechanic that I never told you what it did, and Aaron Forsyth yesterday told you, so I guess now it's public. It was a mechanic in which you had spells you couldn't even play in your deck. It's for 1 red mana, do 7 damage. You can't play this in your deck. And then there was a way to get it into your deck. So you had to sort of jump through a hoop to get them in your deck. And development came to us and said, yeah, I don't think we can balance this. And so we said, well, can you try? And they're like, we did try. We can't balance it. So we took it out. We actually, there's a lot of stuff you guys never see because One of the things I always try to explain is our job is to play a lot of really unfun Magic, so you guys can play fun Magic. And so when development says this is a problem, we take it out. Like the goal is not to test how can development do something. It's like if you don't think you can do it, fine, we'll do something you can do. Okay.
So for a long time after printing Planeswalkers, you guys never actually referenced like the card on the type.
Yeah.
What made the decision to start printing all the destroy target Planeswalkers? Because you didn't do that for like several blocks initially.
Okay, so I will tell you a big secret about how Magic is made. Magic metaphorically is this hungry monster that we have to feed, and we always say, "Oh, we don't need to feed it that. We're fine." And then at some point down the road, we go, "Oh, I think we got to feed it that." So I think when we first started, we're like, you know what? We don't need to reference Planeswalker. It's kind of cool if we don't do it. And at some point, we finally like, you know what? That's actually interesting space. Yeah, I guess probably we should do that. I had a big talk with Eric Lowers, the head developer, and one of the things he and I were talking about is Black was having a problem because there's 3 card types it couldn't deal with. It can't destroy enchantments, can't destroy artifacts, can't destroy planeswalkers. And I'm like, oh, that's easy. Let it destroy planeswalkers. I mean, the whole idea is it uses death as a weapon. Well, you can't kill enchantments or artifacts, but you can kill planeswalkers, so that flavorfully made sense. I'm sorry, you can weaken them and make them leave.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm wondering why we got to devoid as a reminder keyword rather than just the card saying this is colorless.
Okay, so what happened was, originally in design, the plan was there would be no words at all in the rules text. The frame would communicate colorless. That was the original plan. And then I went to talk to the rules manager, and he said, you can't do that. You have to somehow signify it. So I said, oh, well, there's a color indicator. What if the color indicator said it was colorless? And then we went to there's a woman named Liz Leo, whose job it is to do our graphics, and said, can you please convey not something with a... And then she tried, bless her heart, she tried. And then she came back and said, it's really hard to communicate not something with a visual. And so we ended up using text because what we do is we will mock things up and we will show it around the building to like, not R&D people, but people who play Magic but don't know and say, hey, what do you think this does? And then we keep showing them cards until they correctly say what it does. And so this is a case where we did it without words and we just could not convey it without words. I didn't want the words. I actually didn't want the words, but eventually we couldn't convey it without the words. So Matt wanted the words.
I pitched like the blue cards with the void.
Yeah.
Had a blue color indicator and then like a no.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, it's a good example of a lot of the way the process works is we try things and we communicate things and we test things. And a lot of testing things is, will players understand it? And if players won't understand it, we will err on what they will understand. That's a good example. So, next question.
So I'm curious, with Battle for Zendikar coming out, relatively soon, that being the new stuff.
Yeah.
What were some of the mechanics that you guys tried that just floundered? Like you try them, you're like, this would be sweet for Eldrazi or Zendikar, and then it just flops.
Okay, so one of the things I was trying to do when originally, the idea was the Eldrazi are supposed to be alien and unfathomable. So I said, okay, let's make some really weird mechanics so that the one we tried for a while was called Hedronize. So you guys seen the 8-sided dice? So those originally came from this mechanic, although we never actually did the mechanic. So what Hedronize did is we had 8 abilities. And whenever you whenever this enters the battlefield, hedronize. And it meant you roll the dice, and it did one of 8 things. And the idea was we'd have a card that come in the pack, the rules card or whatever, and it would have a list. And hedronize meant roll the die and did one of 8 things. And the idea was, hey, when you play the Eldrazi, who can figure out what they're going to do? I have no idea. But the problem we learned is, while that worked great if you're the opponent, the Eldrazi not understanding what they're doing didn't work really well either. I'm the Eldrazi. What am I doing? I have no idea. So it didn't really play well because it was a little too chaotic. We tried all sorts of ironically what we ended up with is weird, but it's not like we were way out there. In fact, Aaron, my boss, Aaron Forsyth, at one point, he's watching us just and goes, you can reel it a little bit. It doesn't be that weird. So we were trying crazy things, but they used to mock me about Hedronize because we were doing Hedronize for maybe a month or so. And the developers, every time they would see me, they go, how's Hedronize working? So, but anyway.
All right, thank you.
Hi. So I was looking at the new Ulamog, and I found that the first Ulamog had when it enters a graveyard, it shuffles back into your library, but this new one doesn't have that. So why is that?
Ulamog's learned new tricks. Originally, I think what happened was back in the day, we were very worried about reanimation, and so what we did is we put all these different things on the big creatures to keep them from being reanimated. And then development said, here's a better idea. What if we just made reanimate cost more, and then we can stop sticking crazy text on every big creature? And we said, oh, that actually is a smart idea. So what we do is we charge you in the reanimation for it, not in the creature. And so we no longer have to do crazy shenanigans because it's more expensive to reanimate creatures. And it's a little bit higher in rarity, so for limited, it doesn't happen quite as much.
Thank you.
I apologize to people over here. I keep looking for who I'm talking to, but I don't mean to leave you. So I'm thinking about you guys.
Regarding Ingest, it's obviously the spiritual successor to Annihilator. Was there any thought about having that be tied to like a larger number or scale with the creatures instead of always being for one?
I believe development goofed around with it scaling to power, and it was too much. One of the things where you guys will see is the whole idea of the ingest processor thing is trying to create this neat balance between the Eldrazi exile things and the processors eat the exile or use the exile. And we wanted to make sure that there's if we give you too much, then it's too easy to do. If we don't give you enough, then you can't ever use it. So development spent a lot of time trying to work on the balance. And so, I mean, you guys will get to play it in a little bit. But Eric Lauer and his team did a really awesome job. And part of it was how easy is it to exile things. And so I believe they ended up in doing one. They did try a bunch of different things. It wasn't like never dawned on them. They just, one was the right amount.
Thank you.
This is actually a pretty related question.
Okay.
So for the processors, they unexile things that other cards exiled, which you are generally not a fan of.
Okay.
Were you convinced? Were you overruled?
Well, no, I mean, I was convinced. Let me explain sort of one of the bigger things that happens in design is you sort of map off areas that you go, well, this is a problem, and you sort of just do not enter, and you tape off the whole section. But that the hungry monster comes along at some point and goes, well, what do you really care about? And one of the things that made me sort of reevaluate, like originally I'm like, never bring back things from exile ever. Just never do it. And I'm like, okay, is there any usable space? What do I actually care about? And what I really care about is it's important for the game that exiling is a cost that you can't undo. Because I don't want to abuse something and then be able to re-abuse it. That if I have a card that exiles itself, I want it gone as a designer. I want it gone because I don't want people to be able to reuse it again. The nice thing about what we did is this mechanic never lets you exile your own things and you choose to get them back. And the way I describe it is, imagine if the only way you can interact with the graveyard is reanimating your opponent's stuff. Like, I can't plan. I can't put my creatures in the graveyard to reanimate them. So your opponent has a lot of control of what you get, and you never get your own stuff back. So it was a space that I felt didn't violate the essence of what I wanted, but opened up interesting space for us to play around with. So I think in the past, I've given very let's never touch it. And what this design made me realize is, well, what part don't I want to touch? Because part of Magic design, I mean, I describe sometimes Magic design as like, you guys are the Borg. Okay, so I have some trick I use against you, but then you learn it. I can't do that again. You guys have learned the trick, so I have to do something different. So if I want to surprise you, I have to go do different things. And so, I mean, that means we keep having to look at different places to play around with. And so I just ultimately didn't have the luxury of just completely taping off the entire exile zone. But I think we did it in a way that doesn't let you abuse it, which is what my real issue was.
All right, thank you.
Did you get all that?
You could bullet point everything. That'd be rad.
So you could say, Mark, we'll talk about this later on Blogatog.
Yeah, I'll make that.
Okay, next question.
Hey, so I find all the brainstorming and all the thought process that goes into designing everything really incredible. Be it the design space, this opening up for Exile, how Ulamog works with the processors, all that. How you guys design the new card tops, the colors. Have you guys ever thought of videotaping your brainstorm sessions in the office? And then when a set releases, then you can make it available for people to see what goes through?
Here's why we haven't done that. Because while we don't do that, you imagine we're saying wondrous, amazing things and go, this must be the most amazing ever. And then we actually taped it. I think you go, really? That's what this is? I mean, we do have the occasional moment of amazingness, but I mean, a lot of design is not like standing around having amazing thoughts. It's just like there's a lot of drudge work. I think it's fun when I talk about design to talk about like the thunderbolt moment, but that really that is such a tiny portion of design. Most of design is like we have an idea, let's try every version of it and slug through and we're this, and it's a lot of grunt work, and I just don't. I'd rather you guys think it's amazing and exciting, and they've show it to you and go, that's kind of boring. That's why we really haven't videotaped it. I'd like to condense it down in my blog or my articles and stuff. Like I try to give you guys all the good stuff version, but the actual, I mean, Jackie's here. The actual, it's a lot of, it's a lot of sausage making where I don't know if you want to know what's in the sausage, but the sausage is tasty.
All right, thank you.
So I was going to ask about the Devoid mechanic as well, but that was asked. So is AWOL now in Blackwater design space?
Is AWOL? Well,
Probably.
The idea, the guiding principle, because for those who don't know, I'm the unrules manager when there's silver border questions. And my guiding principle on AWOL is nothing ever returns from it. So technically, it is different from Exile because you can't, processors can't touch the AWOL zone. Because the whole spirit, the guiding principle for doing unrules is what's the point of this thing, and try to stay true to the spirit of what the thing is. So when people say, I'm casting ass whooping, and what concept, like, can you see them? Like, just really, it's not like, can you use binoculars and look through windows? I don't know. So, but.
All right, thanks.
So you did like Broodwarden and stuff where it gave spawn +2/+1 and things like that. So can we expect at least another card where it cares about maybe scions on the field or?
So what you're asking is, we're making a whole bunch of counters, and might there be cards that help the counter type we're making?
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay, who else has questions? Come on. It could be about anything you want to know. I can't go. No, I'm not going to answer that one. This is your big chance. Okay, Tim's stepping up.
So during Future Sight, you made lots and lots of mechanics.
Yes.
And you made a card called Steam Flogger Boss.
Remind me, what does that card do again?
Whenever you assemble a contraption, you assemble 2 contraptions. Whenever a rigger assembles.
Whenever a rigger.
So,
by the way, that matters. Okay.
So, I understand that we've not seen it yet, and we might not see it. How far down the path of thinking about
okay.
contraptions?
I have made a promise to the public on Blogatog, and I've said that before I retire, I'm not planning to retire anytime soon. Before I retire, I'm going to make contraptions one day. Here's the problem for people who don't understand. When we first made the card, it was meant as a joke. I mean, a joke. We were screwing around, and we literally were like trying to top each other and go, what else can we put on it? Oh, by the way, originally it did not assemble a contraption. It erected a monument. And then we decided that erecting things was bad, and so we changed it to assembling a contraption. But the rules for it are goofy because we're never making it. Like, for example, it's not when you assemble a contraption, it's when a rigger assembles a contraption. It's like floral spasm. Hey, floral spasm, you want to tell me what I should destroy? So there are some challenges to solving this, because in my mind, if I just say, well, ignore all the rules, I mean, yeah, I can make something, just ignore all the rules, but that's not the spirit of it. Oh, so here's the problem. So we plan never to do it. We're never doing it. Then Aaron Forsyth writes an article and tells you guys we're never going to do it. Like, Aaron, you're not supposed to tell them that. And so once Aaron said it, then of course now we're obligated to do it because Aaron said we're never going to do it. So one day. So like literally, my wife's going to be, Mark, you're getting pretty old. I think it's time for you to retire. I go, not yet. So.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
over time, kind of Planeswalker design has shifted. Like
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, there were, especially Ultimates, were very big, splashy, almost game-ending effects.
Yeah.
And the past couple sets, they've been a lot more manageable
Mm-hmm.
and kind of reasonable. What was the kind of design mentality for the shift towards that?
So here is one of the secrets behind the scenes. Planeswalkers are very, very popular. Originally, by the way, for those that remember, we weren't going to put them in every set. When we introduced them in Lorwyn, it's like every once in a while. In fact, Lorwyn introduced them. Morningtide didn't have them, and I don't think Shadowmoor or Eventide had them. Like they didn't show up again until Shards of Lara. So the idea was we're just going to do them every once in a while, and then really quickly they became insanely popular, and we're like, okay, I guess we're doing them every set. And then I sat down and I started mapping out the design space, and I'm like, oh, there's not a lot of design space here. Like this is like the most popular card type, and it is the most limited of design of any card type we have. So I sort of sat down and said to everybody, guys, we got to conserve this. We can't wait. This is valuable space. And so I think a lot of what's happened is we realize that we can do some fun ones where the ultimate isn't the crazy ultimate. So it's just us mining every space we can. We're literally mining every space we can. I think when the dust settles, there'll be no untapped mine of design space because it is very limited.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
I'm going to look over here now for a second. Hey, how you doing, sir?
Hey, my name is Matthew.
Hi, Matthew.
My birthday is in a couple months.
Okay.
I was wondering if you had any trivia on green-blue cards that are not Ravnica.
Green-blue cards that are not Ravnica. Do you have a favorite green-blue card that's not Ravnica?
Crewfix, Prophet of Crewfix.
Wait, I'll tell you a little bit about the trivia about the gods.
Okay.
So one of the things was we decided we're going to do Theros, we're going to do Greek mythology. So I sat down with my design team and we wrote everything on the board that we thought you guys would expect, like what we expect from Greek mythology, and then we ordered them. And number one was gods. We're like, how do you do Greek mythology and not have gods? And so the idea that we were trying to figure out is we wanted not just gods, but have magic gods. And so we had the decision real early. I'm like, oh, the color wheel, okay. Take gods, take color wheel, put them together. And the question was 5 gods enough? And I'm like, well, I mean, the Greek gods, there are a lot of gods in the Greek gods. I'm like, 5's not enough. Well, what if we do the 2 color pairs as well? So we'll do 15. And development wasn't really happy with me because I signed us up for 15 gods, 10 of which are multicolor. But it was something that we made up early in design, and then the plan was we'd figure out how the first 5 worked, and the next 10 would kind of follow in their footsteps. And so that was one of the cases where we often don't do this, but we sort of made something and said to the next design team, okay, follow this. And I was on the next design team. But we definitely, I was happy, and in the end of the day, we came up with a cool way to do the gods. I mean, Crewfix, I think, turned out really cool. And so it is... I think if we had the gods to do again, the big mistake we made, by the way, is that the dual color gods should have been rare and not mythic rare. I think that we caused all sorts of problems with them being mythic. And so if we had to do it again, in fact, we almost changed it at the last minute, but we figured it out literally 3 weeks too late, and we couldn't change it. So, but anyway.
Thank you.
So I know you get a lot of weird questions on Blogatog. I have to imagine.
Weird questions?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
250,000 is what you said.
250 is unanswered, 55 answered.
Yeah, unanswered. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's a lot of questions you scroll past or look past that are ridiculous or make no sense or are just silly or goofy. Like I can't. There's no way I could ever answer that. Or why would you ask me that? I'm Mark Rosewater. There's nothing to do with magic or anything I know about. Can you give us some examples of these hilarious questions that people are trying to pose to you?
Okay, well, there's a couple different kinds of questions I get that I can't answer. Number one is some of these I do answer. I get weird personal, like, do you guys remember what toaster do you use? Could you print a picture of your toaster? Sure. And my wife is like, why are you taking a picture of the toaster? Like, I don't know. They want the toaster, so I. The people in Blogatog seem very interested in some very interesting minutia. I've decided what I've drawn the line is if it's kind of harmless stuff, I'm more than happy to answer that. If it gets a little too personal, I people ask me really personal stuff, and I'm like, okay, I might not share that with you. So I have questions so personal, like I feel uncomfortable telling you the question they asked me. So that's how personal the questions are. And also I off limits is my family, meaning I'm not gonna sort of like talk about other members of my family. I'll tell things I do, but my family's off limits. Other questions I get that I can't answer. Sometimes there's certain things that I'm not allowed to answer. That just some of the topics you might know, some you might not. There's just things I'm not allowed to answer. So those questions if you mention a topic I'm not allowed to talk about, then I'm not answering your question. Also, there's sometimes I get questions that are just, it would take a long time to answer. And one of the things I figured out very early on is people really like when I answer their questions. And so my goal on Blogatog is I try to keep them short and answer as many questions as I can. I have both a podcast and a column to do long form stuff. So I'm like, if I'm going to explain something in long depth, I'll do that in my column or my blog or my podcast. That really, I mean, every once in a while I'll write a long post, but I actually try to write a lot of short posts because I'm literally trying to answer as many questions as I can. Like I said, I've answered 55,000, so I'm trying. But I get a lot, so I can't answer them all. But usually, or someone asks me a question that I just don't know the answer to. That's also a real common one. Although here's my favorite. This is a very common one. They start by prefacing they know that's not my expertise and I wouldn't know the answer. But what's the answer? Like, I know you're not a developer, but is this card okay in standard? I get that questions a lot. So I'm trying to get a developer on Tumblr. I keep talking to them. But then they ask me about how hard it is, and then I'm a little too honest and they don't do it. So I
Thank you.
Okay.
So I know that you're not a rules manager, but
I'm the unrules manager.
If I have a devoid card and I change its color, is it still colorless?
If you change it, if you give it a color?
I give it a color.
If you give it a color, then you've given it a color.
Even though it still has the reminder text of this card is colorless?
Well, no, I mean, blue cards are blue. If you change them to red, then they're not blue, now they're red.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is a reminder keyword on the card.
I mean, this is a take-back question, not my question. But I'm pretty sure if you take a colors card and make it a color, it is no longer a colors card. It is now a color. Ooh, he's nodding his head. I got that correct. So.
Sorry. Actual question.
I'm sorry. This is Blogatog Live. You need to ask Tayback. What's the answer? No. Okay.
One of my favorite cards from Future Sight is this green card that could only be cast with basic lands.
Oh, Murragon Petroglyphs.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm wondering if there's like a design space where like cards can only be cast like with basic lands or like with like non-basic lands. Is there anything interesting?
There's some space. One of the things that people seem really enraptured by with this card is like, let's make vanilla matters and basic land matters, and there's not a lot of space there, especially vanilla matters, because what vanilla matters means is it's a set full of vanilla cards and a few cards that care they're vanilla. So most of the time, you're just playing with vanilla cards. So that's not particularly enthralling. It's a space where I have a feeling we'll find a set where it'll be a little tiny theme. It's just not a very big theme. So, and people also like that card because I think people really want us to go to some sort of prehistoric world. So that represents that, I think. That's my guess.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Scott.
Hi, Scott.
So my question is, what is your favorite Magic tribe, and what is your favorite example of that tribe in non-Magic media?
Okay, when you say Magic tribe, you mean creature type?
Yeah.
I have a bunch of favorites. Probably I have to pick my absolute favorite. Probably zombies. I really like zombies. I'm a huge zombie fan. And what's the second part of the question was?
Your favorite example of it in non-Magic media.
Oh, I'm a longtime comic reader. I actually started reading Walking Dead when it first came out as a comic, and I'm a huge fan of the show. And I like Robert Kirkman's take on zombies. He wrote a thing once talking about how he hates fast zombies because the awesomeness of zombies is you, a human being, can take any one zombie. That what makes them scary is not any one zombie you can handle. They're slow, they're dumb, but just enough of them you get in trouble. And so that's kind of it's a neat monster that like any one is not threatening, but they're threatening in numbers. So.
Much like your blog, I have returned.
Okay.
I have a question. I know.
Yes,
like
somebody should, by the way, keep asking the same question, like 4 times in a row.
I know you really are proud of like Innistrad Limited, and do you think that
the Battle for Zendikar Limited is going to, in certain ways, sort of step up to that. Like, I felt like Innistrad is really sort of the peak.
I will say this. I'm the head designer. Our head developer is a guy named Eric Lauer. The thing that Innistrad has in common with Battle for Zendikar is I led the design and Eric led the development. So if you like Innistrad design, it's the team that brought you Innistrad. So it is the same people. I mean, if anything, if I had to pick the greatest flaw to this is there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of mechanics. My worry is not for you guys. I think you guys will have a lot of fun. My worry is there's a lot going on. It is definitely a little on the complex side in that there's a lot of keywords and there's a lot happening. So I think you guys are going to have a blast. My actually concern is I want to make sure that the players that are a little less enfranchised don't get lost. But it is a very deep, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of cool things you can do. The other thing that we did, which you guys will discover, is although there's two sides, so if you remember Scars of Mirrodin, when I made Scars of Mirrodin, I crisscrossed the sides mechanically, but then development chopped them apart. And so like all the things I made to tie them together got separated. So there were two sides, and you really couldn't play them together. So this time I made sure that didn't happen. And so Eric and I worked really closely together. Like, for example, there's colorless matters, and you can animate lands. And, animated lands are colorless. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on where you can mix and match things, and they mechanically work together, even though thematically they're separate. So I'm very proud. I think there's a lot of cool things going on. I think you guys will have a lot of fun. So I mean, if you are fans of Limited, I think this is a very fun Limited. So
less a magic question and more a random question.
Okay, I'll give you a random answer.
Tumblr and all social media cease to exist tomorrow. How much free time do you think you'd gain, and what would you do with it?
Here's the secret for why I post so much. People are like, well, you seem to post a lot. Is I have children, and part of having children is you wait around a lot. And so I just, like, while I'm waiting for my son to do something and tell him to put his socks on for 8,000 times, I'll like, while he's putting his socks on, I'll just answer questions. So I would be bored probably if I didn't have social media. Like, mostly it's me just occupying time where I'm not doing anything. I don't. Some people worry sometimes like I'm spending so much social media like I'm ignoring my family or something. I'm not. I'm actually spending plenty of time with my family. Just there's a lot of downtime with my family where my son is like not putting his socks on. So.
All right, thank you.
So we know we have a spoiler date for like when spoilers begin rolling out for Battle for Zendikar.
Yes.
Do you have a date for the Commander products later this year, or is that not available yet?
Well, let me. I'll answer a larger question. I don't have a date, which is what you want, but I can give you a larger question, which is one of the things that we've decided to do is more focus on the upcoming set. So less sort of here's this and just sort of focus on the next thing. Once that comes out, then we focus on the thing after that. So I promise you, when it's Commander's turn, we will be loud. I've seen the it's really cool. We're doing a lot of fun stuff, but right now it's about Battle for Zendikar. We're going to focus on Battle for Zendikar. I promise you, when it's Commander's turn, we will inundate you with cool things about Commander. It is just not its turn yet.
Sweet, thank you.
It is coming out though.
Last couple of years have been absolutely great for designing for colorless things.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges for colorless cards that aren't artifacts versus are artifacts?
I mean, one of the neat things that the Eldrazi let us do is normally if I want to make a colorless card, I have two options in normal Magic. I can make an artifact, or I can maybe animate a land. That's the other option. Here I can make colorless instants and sorceries and enchantments, and I can do all sorts of crazy things. I think that's one of the neat things about the Eldrazi, and I'm trying to keep that as a special Eldrazi thing, meaning outside of Eldrazi, look, colorless really is not, that's an Eldrazi thing. I mean, the neat thing about it, or the challenge of it is whenever you make something colorless, you have the problem that anybody can play it, and that's liberating and fun, but it's developmentally really problematic. That's why we did Devoid. Like, if we had just made everything colorless, things would have broken. And we would make all the cards really expensive because in order to not make them broken, it's like, we have to cast artifacts so that the color that least can do it can put it in their deck. So that's the trick.
Awesome, thank you.
Last question, okay. I feel like power to you, Mark.
I was just wondering, what was the reasoning behind not making 1/1 Eldrazi spawn so they're no longer backwards compatible with things like Brood Order and Hen of Emrakul?
Well, what we didn't want to do is give them the same name but have them different, because we didn't want a card make Eldrazi spawn and go, wait, which kind of spawn does this make? So we decided to, just for clarity, like we don't like to call two different tokens the same thing because it just causes confusion. And so we changed the name to avoid confusion. I understand there's cards that interact with Spawn, but there'll be cards that interact with Scion. So, and then there's a lot of clarity issues. Like one of the big things that pops up all the time is there are cool things we could do if we didn't care about causing confusion, but we really, really have to care about causing confusion. And that on some level, I mean, the more experienced players can handle a lot of stuff, but we have a lot of players that are less experienced. In fact, they outnumber you by a lot. And we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming them or causing problems for them. So there's a delicate balance in design, making things as fun as we can. And I want to have a lot of complexity and depth. I just want to hide that and put it in places that it's not causing less experienced players to stumble and get confused. Okay, that was our last question. Have we caught up yet? All right. Yay, Allison. So, I just want to say for all the guys that are out there, I kind of stumbled into the blog. It's not something like I said, I didn't start it thinking it was going to be what it ended up being, and it has turned into something that I'm very, very proud of, and I'm so excited that if I could answer every question, I would try. Just as people send stuff in, the note I keep stressing is, you've outstripped my ability to read all the questions or even come close to answering all the questions, but I love that people keep sending stuff in. If I miss something, you can send stuff in again, but thank you guys. I love my blog. It's a lot of fun, and I really, really like the chance that I can interact with so many people. One of the hard parts about making a game is that I sit off in a room with other people and we make stuff, and that the real fun of it is seeing you guys experience it. So the reason I'm on the blog and the reason I do as much as I do is my secret sauce. The reason I think I'm so good at making magic is that I talk to all of you, and you guys know what you want. So that is really why I do the blog and all the social media that I do is, like, I'm really good at my job because you guys tell me what you want and I listen. That's the big secret. So if the game designers out there, listen to what your audience says and then listen to them. They don't get everything they ask for, but listen to what they need. And that this blog it's meant a lot to me. I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm so happy so many people show up every time. And every time I meet someone, they're like, I read your blog, and that means a lot. So I want to thank you guys all for being part of Blogatog. So hands to all the question marks. Thank you guys very much. And Matt.
I have one final. It says step up to the mic, please.
Okay.
Sorry. One final question. You are the silver bordered rules manager.
That is correct.
And I am the black bordered rules manager. Would you like to trade? For a period of time of your choosing.
There is a lot of interesting things that could happen if I said yes.
Oh, yeah.
But because I love Magic so much, I have to say no. Okay, guys, thank you very much for Blogatog Live. And I will be out back to sign and take pictures and stuff. So thank you guys all for joining me. And thanks, Allison, for typing like a maniac.